Okay, so we're on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Elameyato. We just came to our conclusion of where do we get that you need three dayanim and you don't need mumchen by a halva, by anything, by civil cases, by mominist, like not gazelis and not chavelis, but we're borrowing money. So we said that we learn it out because of really, we would say Erev Parshias Kasav Khan, and the Torah tells us you need mumchen and you need shleisha when it comes to borrowing, when it comes to halva and paying back civil cases. But the Torah doesn't want that someone who lends money is going to have to go and find a mumcha, find someone who's an expert. So therefore, we were lenient and we allow him to use any kind of anyone who's anyone could be a rav, anyone could be a dayan for these kind of cases, civil cases. Anyone could be a judge in this court of small claims. If that's the case, that the Chachamim Paskin, they determine that they don't want to have a requirement of mumchit for haidos v'halvos. If the judge makes a mistake, he should not be on the hook. He should not have liability. That means, let's see the Rashi how he explains it, because it's a strange question. Elameata to, the first wide line. They shouldn't be responsible. Even the B'Rishus Rabbanon Kanachsi, since the Chachamim said that they're allowed to dan, the general rule is anyone who's appointed to be a bezdin and he's qualified, they're not liable if they make mistakes. So we dashin over there that only a mumcha is pater if he makes a mistake, but not a non-mumcha who dans. But the Gemara is asking, we have a very good reason why the Chachamim were misaken that non-mumchas, a hedyot, should be a kosher dayan for these types of cases. So why would we make them responsible? So tomorrow, I'll tell you the reason why. If you're going to allow a dayan, if a dayan who a lender comes and he brings this case to this traffic court judge, basically, this guy who has no experience, he didn't go to yeshiva, he didn't listen. And the guy says, okay, you know what? He doesn't owe you money. And the lender is left sputtering there. He says, you don't know what you're talking about. The lender, and the guy says, I'm sorry, that's what I decided. And he has no recourse against the judge who doesn't know what he's talking about. So that will certainly gum up the works. It will not produce additional commerce if lenders can't be sure, if they know that there's not going to be liability for a non-mumcha judge who makes a mistake. Therefore, part of the takanas Chachamim is that hedyotis can be dayanim, and not only can they be dayanim, but they're going to have immunity that the judges are not going to be. They're going to have to pay if they make a mistake. They're not going to have that. These non-mumchas are not going to have immunity.
So who's going to want to be a judge? What do they get out of it?
Maybe they get paid. Every litigant has to pay $50. Probably. So like tomorrow, listen, as long as they don't make a mistake, they should know the limits of their ability. Mumcha is I think mumcha means that they have smicha. Maybe not. No, the smicha is only for Sanhedrin. But mumcha is, a person who is a businessman. He probably knows what the rules are pretty well, so he has to judge for himself. Even if he's not trained, he has to judge for himself if he's capable. As long as he doesn't make a mistake, he should be okay. So now they're going to ask a different question, right? So the way we got to this pshat in the Mishnah, until now we've been saying pshat in the Mishnah. The Mishnah started off, so the first pshat was that the gzelas v'chavalos b'shleisha is an explanation of dinei mamonos b'shleisha. It means only gzelas v'chavolis, as opposed to haidois v'halvois. And then we went back and forth about exactly why the Mishnah had to say in this case. So we should know that it doesn't mean only that shloisha is only for gzelas v'chavelis, haidois v'halvois not, because the truth is you do need shloisha for haidois v'halvois. But we said the Mishnah said in this specific way to let us know that haidois v'halvois are different, that it doesn't need a mumcha. So now the Gemara asks, "Hihachi tartik tani dinim mamas b'shloisha hedyayitis v'chavelis hedyayitis b'shloisha hedyayitis v'chavelis b'shloisha mumchin." He says, why do we say that the first part of the Mishnah, when it says dinim mamas b'shloisha, and then we say gzelas v'chavelis b'shloisha, is an explanation, is the pirush of dinim mamas b'shloisha, and they're both talking about the same thing. Maybe dinim mamas b'shloisha means haidois v'halvois. So the Mishnah is talking about two separate things. Instead of saying that the second part is an explanation, just teach it in this way. Since it's really the same conclusion, we're coming to the same point, but the Gemara just thinks this is a better way to read the Mishnah. Say dinim mamas b'shloisha, meaning haidois v'halvois is with three, but they could even be hedyayitis. Gzelas v'chavolis b'shloisha mumkin, and gzelas v'chavolis also needs three, but they need to be mumkin. So that seems more sensible. Say that it's talking about two separate things rather than one is explaining the other. If they're both talking about the same thing, they should just say dine mamnis v'gzelas v'chavelis b'shloisha. Why do you need shloisha twice? It sounds like it's two separate things. Rava says ein chanami. That's the way he will learn it. He will just read the Mishnah in that way. Mishum der Chanina, and his explanation would be. I'm sorry. Yes, shloisha lamli. Why doesn't it say dine mominus? Why doesn't it say dine mominus v'gzelas v'chavolis b'shloisha? Why does it say shloisha, the word shloisha, twice, interjecting it? It sounds like that the two things are not both the same thing. The two mentions in the Mishnah, when it says dinim mominus, and then it says gzelas v'chavolis, are two separate things.
Yeah.
So it says it should teach it that way. So that's the way Rava teaches it. And his explanation is again, but it's still like Rav Chanina. Rav Chanina says that it's mishum shleitinol delis b'fnei love, and that's why we don't require mumchin. Hedyayitis are good enough for haidois v'halvois. So that's really the Gemara's conclusion of the way we understand the Mishnah according to Rava. Then we bring another pshat. He says that midaraisa really one is enough. So this is a new thing. We're saying good morning. You came from Antarctica.
Got cold.
Very sensitive. Expect you to come in next time with your huskies with the sled. Yeah. Rav Acha Breder Avika says a new thing. He says, until now we've been saying that both haidois v'halvois and gzelas v'chavelis, midaraisa really needs three dayanim. But we cut it down to so that you don't need mumchin by haidois v'halvois. Rav Acha Breder Avika almost says midaraisa chad nami kacher. He says all you need is one by haidois v'halvois. Shnema b'sedek tishber amisecha. El mishum yoshev koronos. The only reason why we switch it to that you need three is because we don't want to have. We say it could even be shloisha hedyayitis. It could even be one hedyot, but we don't want to have that. You get somebody who mamish knows nothing. The yoshev kronos, we're scared it's going to be a guy who is totally incapable. He's a batlin. He doesn't know anything about business. He doesn't know about the rules. What if he becomes the dayan? It's going to be a terrible situation. In fact, tomorrow, so you're saying that it's takanos chacham that you have to have three, and really all you need is one hedge, and just the chacham that will masaka that you need three in order to avoid the problem of yeshiv kronos. You have to last mukhad the government. So the Gemara answers. So the Gemara asks, even if you have three, it could all be people who don't know anything. The Gemara answers, you have to less mukhad the government. If you have three, at least somebody. You can't have You're not going to be able to find three full total idiots. One of them is going to at least know something, just by the law of averages. In fact, the Gemara Alamayata totally Yisham. The Gemara asks the same question. Since the Chacham had a good cheshbon about why they allow hadyotis, why do we paskin that these hadyotis are going to be liable if they make a mistake? So the Gemara calls in the nefishi yeshvei kranas. If you make it that that they don't have to pay, that they're not liable, then even by three, there's a decent chance you'll get yeshvei kranas. Because if they see they're off the hook, then there'll be no reason for a guy who's incapable for not joining a bezin. They'll say, I'll make the quick $50 to be the dayan, and he won't care about the mistakes he makes. So in the end, we come to the same place, both according to Rav and Racha bar Ravika. It's just a question of where do you start from? Do you start from that a Hidois of Alvois really needs three and really needs mumchim, but we make it less because of Kadesh Tinel Dallas? Or if you only need one hedjit, but we add on that you need three for Yeshvei Kronos. So what's the difference? In the end, you still come to the same place. If you have two dayanim who are done on a case of a Hidois of Alvois, a civil case, Shmuel says that it's going to be a kosher din Torah, but they're going to be considered. So b'di'evid, if you have only two dayanim, it will be sufficient. Except for that, as we called the din bezdin chutz, they did the wrong thing. The Rava Leslie, according to Rava, who said that we learn out from the pasuk that you really need three. We say Ir Parshiyas Kasavkat, and you really need three, and the Chacham, the Rabbanan cut it down. They said you don't need munchin. So he's not going to hold that two is enough because it's midaraisa. You need three. The Shmuel, let's lay the Shmuel. Ravacha Breder Avika is lay the Shmuel. Ravacha Breder Avika, who says that's you only need one. He'll say if you have two, that's going to also be kosher b'di'evet. Zakdamar. The Mishnah continued. Nezek b'chatzi nezek. We said on nezek, meaning if you're a shar hamuad killed but damaged, he's going to have to pay full nezek, and if it's a shar tam, he pays chatzi nezek. Pragdamar nezek hainu chavalos. We already said the chavalos you pay zelos b'chavalos damages. So this nezek b'chatzi nezek are both damages. Why do we have to say it again? So the reason why we said nezek is because we wanted to say chatzi nezek. Pragdamar taninami nezek shalom. That's why we also said nezek shalom. Pragdamar chatzi nezek nami hainu chavalos. Why is chatzi nezek any better? Tana mamayna b'ktani knasa. We wanted to say chatzi nezek. Chatzi nezek is a knas. If we would have just said mominus, which is compensation for damage that was done, that maybe that's what you need three. But maybe for knasus you need more or less, probably more, a penalty. So therefore we said chatzi nezek, and once we say chatzi nezek, we also say nezek shalom because they go together. So that's good according to the Manda Amma, who says that really palgan nezek, meaning when a shar tam, a shar that never damaged before, pays chatzi nezek. He says it's a knas because really you have no reason to expect your shar is going to damage. And if it goes damages, you really should be potter. But the Torah said in order that you should watch it. The Torah said that you have to pay chatzi nezek, but it's really a penalty. You really shouldn't have to pay anything. So it makes sense. We have to say chatzi nezek because it's a knas. We said nezek shalom together with the chatzi nezek. According to the Mandam, who says really you would have to pay a full knas. You would have to pay the full damage when your shar tam damages, because you have to watch your shar. Shar is a dangerous animal. You have to watch it. And the Torah cut it down. The Torah diminished it. It reduced it from being full nezek to half nezek. But that half nezek is still mammon. It's still compensation for damage that was done. So then why are we saying chatzi nezek and nezek shalom along with it? Chatzi nezek is also mammon. It's not knas. Since we wanted to say kefel and arba v'chamisha, meaning kefel, if someone stole, he pays double, and if he stole and he shechted a cow or sold a sheep or a cow, he pays arba v'chamisha. The moment she'enim mishtam b'roishu, this is amounts of money that you're paying more than what you damaged. So that's for sure a knas. So Tananami Chatzi Nezek, the Mama Shena Mishtal Bresh. Chatzi Nezek, even though it's Mammon, it's still in the same category because it's something where you're not paying the Karen, you're not paying the same amount as what you damaged. So we lump it in together with Gneva and Dalad Vehe. So once we said, so it's like a chain, right? We wanted to say Dalad Vehe and Gneva because they are kaf. And there are things that you don't pay the amount that you damage. So you put in Chatzi Nezek, even though that's not a knas, that's a moment because it goes together with Dalad Vehe and Gneva. And then once we say Chatzi Nezek, we also say Nezek because it just goes along. Whenever we say Chatzi Nezek, you also say Nezek. Zak tomorrow. We're Shloisha Minol. So we said earlier that the amount, we mentioned in Rashi had told us that it says V'nikra Balabayis Elalehim. That tells you need 3 dayanim for Mominus, because Zelas v'chavalas. Now the Gemara is asking, how do you see from V'nikra Balabayis Elalehim that you need 3? So the Gemara, the Tanarban V'nikra Balabayis Elalehim, Harei kan echad, Al Elihim Yavay Dvashleim Harei kan Shnayim, Asher Yashin Elihim Harei kan Shleish. It says Elihim, meaning a judge 3 times. Divrei Rabbi Yoshi, that's what Rabbi Yoshi allows. Rabbi Yoshi number Rishon Tchilin Emma. Vein Darshan Tchilas. Rabbi Yoshi said no. It says the first one is telling you that you have to have a judge. So you can't use the one that's telling you the actual din to add it to say how many there are. So really, the first one is telling you need to go to the judge, and then the other 2 are extra. So it only tell you need 2. So the 2 extra ones tell you 2. But again, we know, we've seen a bunch of times, you can't have a bezdin that is an even number, because then you'll get a deadlock if they disagree. So Rabbi Yonason says you get to 3 because the pasuk says 2, and then we add on 1 because of you can't have a bezdin shakal, you can't have an even number. What Rabbi Yoshia says, no, the pasuk says Elihim 3 times. That's how we know 3. So let's say the machlekes is, like we said, like was mashma, they disagree about whether when you have 3 times the same word, when the pasuk says Elihim, meaning the judge, whether you judge whether you count the first one as teaching us anything. The Marsav Darshan Tchilas. The first man, the Amr Rabbi Yonason, says you do Darshan Tchilas. I'm sorry, Rabbi Yoshi says you do Darshan Tchilas. Marsav ain't Darshan Tchilas. Another one says no, you don't. Everyone agrees you don't darshan all 3 of them. The first one you have to take out and you count it as the first one of the number. Amalach Rabbi Yoshe Im Kain name a krav and nikra balabayis ela shayfet. Why does it use the word Elohim? Let it say Ela shayfet. My Elohim shma mina leminyana. Because we use this unusual word of Elohim as opposed to shayfet. That's coming to tell you that it's using the same description of a dayan like you used the other 2 times to tell you that you should count all of them. Rabbi Yonason, listen to Almanach at Kedami and Shimon Islay Dina, the Karv Lagabi Daina. He says no, that the Elohim is not a strange lashon. That's a normal lashon that people use, and therefore it doesn't teach you anything. You would say it's tchilas, it's the first one, and you don't include it in the minyan. Fact Gemara of Rabbi Yoshia less the bezdin naita. We said Rabbi Yoshia says that the Torah says 3 times, and therefore that's how we know that you need to have 3 dayanim. And Rabbi Yonason says it 2 times, and the third one is because you can't have a bezdin that's equal. So according to Rabbi Yoshia, why did the Torah have to say it 3 times? Let it just say 2 times, and we would know, because we know the rule is you can't have an even amount. And the Gemara brings a raya that even Rabbi Yoshia holds that you can't have an even amount of dayanim. Why does the Torah say you go after the majority? You should make a bezdin that has the ability to have a majority. And if you have an even amount, particularly if you have 2, then if they don't agree, then you're not going to have a majority either way. So l'chayra, this is a raya that says lintas achar rabim lahatas. That's a raya that you need to have an uneven amount in your bezdin. The Gemara Saval Rabbi Yehuda, he holds like Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah. The Amar Shivim. We had a machlokes in our Mishnah. How big is the Sanhedrin Gedola in Yerushalayim? The Tanan Sanhedrin Gedola Heitzah Shel Shivim V'Echad. The Tanakama says the Sanhedrin Gedola in Yerushalayim was 71. Meaning it says Asuli Shivim Ish, and Moshe al Gabei, and Moshe was the 71st. Yehuda Amar Shivim. Rabbi Yehuda says all you need is 70. So you see, Rabbi Yehuda holds you don't need a odd amount. Even though it says Achar Am Lahatas, Rabbi Yehuda is still saying that say 70 is a Sanhedrin Gedola, even though that's not an uneven amount. It's not an odd amount. So the Gemara Rabbi Yehuda Sanhedrin Gedola. The Gemara says no, you can't bring a raya. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda only holds by the Sanhedrin Gedola 70 is the right amount. Because the pasuk says specifically 70. Asuli Shivim Ish. So you can't, after the Torah says how many explicitly, you can't then go add an extra one and say because they need to have an odd amount. The Torah said exactly this, and it's not just the Torah said this is what you should do. This is a story about what happened. The Torah wouldn't say an amount that's incorrect. But we don't have it by the other bezdis. So maybe Rabbi Yehuda only says it there, but not in other amounts. And if you'll say Rabbi Yehuda says it even by other size bezdins, even by a Sanhedrin Katan of 23 and a bezdin of 3, that you could have an even amount. But none. Smichas skenim v'arivas agla b'shloisha divrei Reb Shimon. The dinim of the skenim by paral davar shel tziba, that they have to be same of the hands, and the measuring of where the egla arufa is, which town it's near. You need a bezdin of shloisha divrei Reb Shimon. Yehuda says you need 5. But I mean, in my time, this is Rabbi Yehuda. It said shivin. I mean, in my time, Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda says you need 5? It says the samchu, which is a lashon ramim, so that's 2, and zikne is also a lashon ramim, that's also 2. He says you need 5 for these dinim of smicha and egla arufa because the pasuk says 2 samchu, which is rabim of 2, and skanim, which is 2, is 4, and then we say you can have an even amount. So you see explicitly Rabbi Yehuda, even though he says shivim by Sanhedrin Gedola, he says the gabi other dinim that you need to have a odd amount. Harei kanhei. So no, Rabbi Yoshi adif and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yoshi is going like Rabbi Yehuda, but he takes it even further. Rabbi Yehuda says, even though the Torah says 70 by the Sanhedrin Gedola, that's only in that case. Rabbi Yoshi extends it, even though, Rabbi Yoshi is a Amoira, but he's saying that he holds this sheet of the Amoraim, of the Tanaim, that goes even farther than Rabbi Yehuda. It says we learn out from the Sanhedrin, just like the Sanhedrin is 70, so too, everything can be, all din, but a dinim can be an even amount. It doesn't have to be bedafka, an odd amount. Correcting more, Rabbi Yoshi b'shabbat dinim and amel lesle. Does Rabbi Yoshi really hold that by other batei dinim you don't need a bezdin shakel? It could be an even amount. What does he do with this pasuk that we brought originally? That's where we get that you need to have an odd amount. So he says that's only for dinei nefashis. For the bezdin of 23, when we talk about dinei nefashis or Sanhedrin Gedola, he limits it to just dinei nefashis. So that which it said in the Mishnah. Shnaim amrim zakai. 2 are saying. It says in the Mishnah. 2 people. If you have 2 dayanim who say that a litigant who they're arguing about or dinimominus, and 2 are saying he's potter, and 1 says he's chayiv zakai. We're going to go after the majority and say he's going to be potter. But if the other way around, if 2 say he's chayiv and 1 says he's potter, he's going to be chayiv. Name and delay Rabbi Yeshia. The Gemara is saying if he says achri rabim lahates, which tells you have to have a majority, that's only by dinim nefashos and not dinim mamnis. The Gemara is suggesting that not only does it not mean that you have to have an odd number, the Gemara seems to think that we're dispensing altogether with the din of a majority. You don't go achri rabim lahates, you have have everyone, you have to have unanimous decision. Everyone has to agree. Right? Just like, literally it sounds judicial system, right? You want to find someone to decide and then he's chayav. So maybe according the Gemara is suggesting that according to Rabbi Yeshua, who doesn't hold of acharabim lahatas except for by dinei nefashis, maybe by dinei mamnas you have to have a unanimous decision. There's no din of a majority at all. So I feel ten Rabbi Yeshua. Ma'aseh lebekavachim dinei nefashis. Says that kavachim u'ma dinei nefashis techamiri amar charana zilbas aruba. If we say someone could be convicted in dinei nefashis with a majority. Dinu almost like culture gain. Certainly by dinu nefashis, a person can be found to be chayav with a majority. You're not going to need a unanimous decision. Tanarabba, dinu mamanis b'shloisha. Dinu mamanis b'shloisha. Rabbi Aymer b'chamisha. Now we have new shita. Rabbi is a Tani. Can be chaylik on our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said you need 3 by dinu nefashis. Rabbi says you need 5. Kadesha yigma hadin b'shloisha. You should have a Gemara din with 3. The Gemara says l'chayra means because you have to have, the Torah says 3, right? We learned V'nikra Baal Abayis El Elohim. So that tells you that you need 3 dayanim. It means that they have to have 3 dayanim agreeing to what the psak is. And since you need a majority, so if you have 5 and a majority of them agree that he's chayiv, then the Gemara din is going to be b'shloish. In fact, the Gemara of the Tlasam Ilagama Dina betray. What do you mean? You can have a Gemara din, even if the Gemara seems to think that you Gemara din b'shloish, you have to have all 3. So the Gemara, no, if you just need to have a majority, so you can have 2 out of 3 is also a majority. Hachikam, b'neshek Gemara din b'shloisha. So that the Gemara says no. What it means is, since the Gemara din, he seems to understand that the Gemara din, the final conclusion has to be b'3. So that seems to say that Rabbi holds you need 5. That's because he holds that you need to have, when it says that you need 3, that's referring to how many decide in favor of one litigant. It has to be 3 deciding on his behalf. So if we have to start with 5, which is a majority. Ravo scorned this. He says, maybe a Bezdin, a Sanhedrin Gedolah should need 141. In order you should have a conclusion with 71. You should need 45. So you'd have a conclusion with 23. If you're going to say that the Dinei Mamonis needs 5 in order that the amount that the Torah said, that's the amount that Paskin in one, that's the majority that Paskins in one direction. So the other Batei Dinim should also need to be big enough that the amount that the Torah says is how many are going medin in one side. So he says it doesn't make any sense. When the Torah says you need 70 men, it means gather 70 men to be the Sanhedrin, and they're going to be the one to decide, and not that you need 70 at the end. They're not Mishash Shvita Sa'eda. And also when it says V'shaftu Eida V'tzilu, which is where we need 23, it also means that that's how big the court is, not how many have to decide on one side of the decision. So too over here, you would only need 3 because the Torah says and it says Elohim 3 times or whatever. We have the different ways of learning it. But that means at the beginning you need 3. So now that doesn't make sense. So what's Elohainu time in the Rebbe? So why does Rebbe say you need 5? He says Asher Yashian Elohim. It says Asher Yashian Elohim that the Dayanim will convict or they'll find someone guilty. Trey. So Yashin is a Lashon Rabbim. So that means 2. Nemer Lehim Lamata v'Nemer Lehim Lamayla. And it says Elohim here, and it says Elohim over there, meaning it says Al Kol Dvar Pesha Al Shar Al Chamo Al Sal Sam Al Kol Aved Hashem Yuzeh Elohim Yaved Hashem Shin Elohim Yishalom Shnaim L'Re'eu Ma Lamata Shnaim Af L'Mayla Shnaim. And just like the other, the second Elohim, he says the first one is to teach you, and then we have the second Yashim, which is also we say the second Elohim is also Shnayim. The Ein Bezdin Shakel. So we'd end up with 4, and you can't have an even amount. You add on another one. We hold Ein Darshan Tchila, so we came out with 4. We add 1, and that gets us to 5. So why don't the Rabbanon agree with this? Rabbanon, it says Yashin, which is Lashon Rabim, so it should be at least 4. 2 and 2, if you say Ein Darshan Tchila, so the Darshan Tchila should be 6, really. Rabbanon Yashin Ksiv, they say the pasuk, even though the Kri, the way you read the Mikra is Yashin, which is Lashon Rabim, since it says it's written without the Vav, so it's a little bit mechusar, so we say that reduces the amount, even though it's written, even though it's read as Yashin, which is Lashon Rabim, it's written as Yashin without the Vav, which indicates that it's supposed to be less and it's only 1. So therefore they say it's Yashin 2, and then you say the third one is you can have a Buzz and Shach. Okay, we'll leave for tomorrow with Matzah Shabbos. We're going to do Yeshem LaMikra, Yeshem LaMesaira. This is a famous thing, right?